It's Nick from the Run Testers, and this is our review of the Reebok Floatride Energy X. So the Floatride Energy X is a new arrival to Reebok's range this year. It is their first kind of carbon plate shoe. It's got a 4-foot carbon plate rather than the full length one. And it follows on, the heels of some really great, maybe underappreciated shoes that Reebok have released of late. Like the Floatride Energy line has become well known for its kind of offering really good value for a daily trainer, but there's been some fantastic, fast shoes there in the past. Like the Reebok Run Fast in particular was, a really great lightweight shoe. So this is not that. It's a different kind of shoe. It's billed as a long distance racing shoe, a long training shoe. And so, it's fairly heavy, got a lot of cushioning, but it could be a very good value option when you're looking for maybe a marathon racer in particular, because it only costs £130 in the UK or $170 in the US. Obviously, it's not cheap, but it obviously undercuts a lot of the carbon competition. It's got a 6mm drop from heel to toe, and it's 274 grams in my UK size 9, or 9.7 ounces. So yeah, again, you're looking really more at the weight of kind of training shoes than full-fledged carbon racers, but with a plate in there and Reebok's Floatride Energy foam, hopefully it should be a pretty solid package. The upper is a mesh, a very open mesh. There's not a lot of weight coming onto the shoe because of the upper. There's not much. There's a fair bit of padding around the kind of base of the heel there, and a little bit of kind of support around the heel as well. But it's a fairly stripped back upper that can look a little bit loose and baggy, but I did find fit reasonably well, even though there is a slight concern about sizing, which we'll come on to in the fit section. In the midsole, you've got the Floatride Energy foam. Now, this is a really solid foam. That's how I describe it. It's got a bit of softness, a bit of versatility, a bit of bounce, a bit of everything, but it's not noticeably soft or noticeably firm or anything like that. It's just a really good, I'd say, dependable foam for kind of daily training. And in this case, it's got a 4-foot carbon plate paired with it in the midsole of the Energy X to add a bit more propulsion to your toe off and hopefully make it more racy than the kind of feel of the Floatride Energy foam on the Floatride Energy 4. Got a rubber outsole with, pretty good coverage. Again, Reebok hasn't gone all out to save weight by, having huge cutout. There's a little bit of a cutout there, but there's a good amount of rubber coverage. And after the kind of 60K or so I've put on the shoe, no signs of wear at all in any areas. So it should be a reasonably long lasting shoe. And again, probably points to the fact this is billed more as a kind of plated training shoe rather than an all out racer. So the Floatride Energy X comes in whole sizes only, which is a little bit of a concern for lots of people, obviously. It shouldn't be a concern for me. I am a UK 9 normally, but with Reebok I have found that their shoes come up slightly long in my normal size, so I tend to go half a size down. Not an option with this shoe. In a UK 9, it's been okay testing it, but I've got, slightly too much length there, and a UK 8.5 would have been perfect. But I didn't have a problem with bagginess around the midfoot and heel. I did get a really reliable, solid fit there, so no concerns on that front, but yeah, it might end up being a bit long or a bit short if you are someone who usually uses a half size. So I've done 60K in the Floatride Energy X, and I will say the overall impression it's left me with is slight disappointment. I've been a little bit underwhelmed by the shoe. And I think that's partly because of the shoe itself, but also partly because I came in with quite high expectations after recently testing the Floatride Energy 4 and really thinking that was a fantastic shoe that provided great value. And then obviously the hopes off the back of that Reebok were going to provide a really top-notch carbon racer at a lower price than many rivals. The first couple of runs I did kind of treat it as a speedy carbon shoe. I took it down the track and did a couple of sets of 5 times 600 meter reps, and then I did a fast progression run in it. I'd say definitely on the reps, you could tell straight away that this wasn't a shoe built for that kind of all-out track speed. I mean, the reps weren't all out, but they were kind of at shorter race paces for me. And although it got through it fine, it worked okay. There were lots of other shoes I'd have rather had on my foot, just lighter shoes. It felt just kind of a bit big and boat-like. And although it had a reasonably smooth ride, it wasn't snappy at all. Thought it would work better on the progression run, which was meant to be a 10K, ended up being a 9K. I didn't have a very good day running. Those days happened, but it was weird, windy day. So it ended up being almost intervals in and out of wind instead of a steady progression of effort. So I did kind of 3K at 3:45, 3K at 3:35, 3K at 3:25, and I was meant to kick for the last K, but I just called it a day. And the shoe felt very comfortable at the kind of start of the run. It felt really good rolling through at that kind of steady pace, that kind of 3:45, and it was pretty good at 3:35, which is just slightly slower than my marathon pace. And then it just started to get a bit too much for it and myself, obviously mainly, not the shoe. And it just felt a bit big, and there was certainly a clutch of shoes I'd have rather had on my foot just to speed through. And after that run, I thought, okay, well, I've tried a couple of speed sessions here. It's not been excellent, it's been okay, but let's do some more general training. And then the shoe did come much more into its own. Like I did a progression 10K from easy to steady pace, and I did a long run in the shoe today, which was kind of easy for an hour, and then 30 minutes around kind of 3:40 a K pace. And it was better on both those runs, I'll definitely say that. At those kind of slower, steadier paces, you feel the shoe works with you a bit more naturally. It kind of clicked into my kind of gait, and the rhythm started to appear with the shoe. And there were times certainly when I was ticking along and effort and feel and heart rate were all lower than I thought they'd be for the pace I was putting out in the shoe, which is exactly what you want really from a shoe like this. So yeah, definitely that's kind of where I've ended up with it. It's a good, solid, faster daily trainer, and it's pretty comfortable. I have no qualms about using this for easy runs as well. So there's a good bit of versatility there, but it really does, I think, not work that well for all-out speed stuff, and I wouldn't want to race in it really at any distance. So that kind of ends up being just a bit disappointing to me, because, you know, I did think it might end up quite a similar level of performance to something like the Hoka Carbon X3, which is another big, slightly boaty shoe, but it has a full length plate, and I do think the foams in that shoe are a bit more responsive, and it works better as a long distance racer than the Reebok will, even though obviously it is a touch more expensive. But yeah, overall, solid option, will handle longer miles, has a bit of kind of pace in it when you're kind of running on feel and enjoying a kind of smooth ride. But if you are looking for a bit more kind of directed speed, you're going out with a lot more purpose, it just feels a bit big, heavy on the foot, and you don't get the kind of squish and response from the foam or a big pop from that kind of 4-foot carbon plate. It's, you know, it's solid. This foam is very solid, but it's not really up to the standards of some of the top super foams out there that are being paired with plates on carbon shoes. So the Reebok Floatride Energy X is obviously not a shoe designed or built as one that's going to take on things like the Vaporfly and the other top carbon shoes in the world. No, Reebok has positioned this as a good value, long distance trainer racer. But even with all those caveats, it just doesn't really stand out much from the crowd. Like, it's pretty comfortable, it's reasonably smooth, and I think it will hold up quite well, but you're just not getting a lot of pop from the 4-foot plate. The foam isn't giving you a load back either, so it ends up just feeling like quite a solid daily trainer, which, you know, is kind of where it's priced, but that's not really what I was hoping for from it. I actually hoped it might work really well in maybe in a 2-shoe rotation with the Floatride Energy 4 as kind of your speed shoe racer, with the Floatride Energy 4 as a great value daily trainer. Actually, I just like the Floatride Energy 4 more for any kind of run. Like, it's a bit lighter, it's a bit snappier. I think it's just as comfortable. It hasn't got, you know, such a kind of rocker and smooth ride to it, but the ride is still very comfortable, and it's good fast transition. And overall, there's really not many kinds of run that I'd rather have the Energy X on my foot for than the Floatride Energy 4. Maybe kind of long cruisy miles where you're ticking through the paces, you know, hitting like kind of 20 milers, something like that. But even then, the Floatride Energy 4 will do that job, and I'd rather have it on my foot for short speed stuff, certainly, and I'd be pretty happy racing in it compared to the Energy X. So, you know, it's being severely undercut by another Reebok shoe, but there's also lots of other shoes from other brands that I think do a better job without a carbon plate and for less than £130. Puma Velocity Nitro 2 is a big favourite on the channel. Obviously, I think it's a versatile, fun, comfortable, soft, bouncy daily trainer that I think handles speed stuff just as well as this shoe does, even without a plate in there. And then if you are looking at kind of plated shoes around a similar price, you're going to get a higher level of performance from things like the Hoka Rocket X, which is £140 in the UK, so £10 more, but much lighter, snappier, more performance-focused shoe that would be a lot better for your kind of speed sessions and races. Even long ones, I found it quite a comfortable shoe for long races. And then if you can stretch, you know, an extra 25 quid and get the Saucony Endorphin Speed 2, you are then genuinely getting a very impressive high-performance shoe that's just going to be better across every kind of run, from your training runs to your races. So, you know, it's an okay shoe, but it's not actually, I think, cheap enough to consider picking up, given the kind of performance deficit to shoes around it. Whereas that's definitely not the case with the Floatride Energy 4, which is a lot cheaper and actually matches or outperforms shoes that cost twice as much as it. The Energy X is just a kind of okay shoe at £130, and there are lots of those around. So yeah, solid enough. I don't dislike it, but the competition is just too fierce from inside Reebok and out. That's it, guys. That is our review of the Reebok Floatride Energy X. Have you tried the shoe? Are you a big fan? Have I got it completely wrong? Please let us know in the comments below, and like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we will see you next time when we do another video.